And the last book that I read in, what month am I in? Yeah, alright. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with the books that I read in January and February. So as it is now March, I've realized I haven't wrapped up anything that I've read so far this year, so I think I've decided to do them together. I will do all the books I've read so far, both in January and February, in one video, because I haven't read that many books. So far I have read 9 books, I just checked, and most of those were in January. I did read 3 in February, but though February was kind of like a blah reading month, not in terms of what I read, just in terms of like how much I read. But I'm just gonna go straight into all the books I read and what I thought about them. So the first book that I read in 2019 is The Chaos of Standing Still by Jessica Brody, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Overall, I did enjoy a lot of this book. It definitely takes on the topic of grief in a new way, and our main character, Ren, has some sort of anxiety. That on top of grief, just the whole thing was really, really interesting. Plus, this is set on New Year's Eve, and so being the first book in the new year, it felt very appropriate. I will say most of the writing I did really, really enjoy, but I will say her best friend, Lottie, the one who like dies like way before the book starts, like with the purpose of the grief, annoyed the crap out of me. I didn't think that she was a good friend like at all. The fact that Rin was like so caught up on this kind of bothered me a little bit, not because like you can't be caught up on like your friend who died a year ago, like obviously, you know, she meant a lot to you, but it just kind of felt, I don't know, like Lottie was a terrible person, so why were you friends with her to begin with? But overall, I will say I did enjoy this book. I do have a few tabs in there, so obviously some parts were great. There were some really funny scenes that I love to reread and reread. But yeah, I think this was pretty well written, and I did enjoy my time reading it. So again, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. Okay, I love this book. If you're going in for like a cutesy romance, this is your book. If you want like a lot of thoughts and like hardcore discussions about stuff, this isn't the one that you need to go with. But I loved the whole exploring of the two of them, and I really, like, it bothered me, but I understand why the book ended the way that it did. It makes sense for the two characters why it did it, but like my little romantic heart was a lot a bit upset with it. I was like, I want them to have like a moment. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars because it did take me a little while to get into it. I did listen to this on audiobook and followed along because they did have 2 different guys, one reading for Ben and one reading for Arthur, so it was really, really interesting. I loved having those like dual personalities and dual voice actors doing that, but I just adore this book. It's so cute. It's just up Becky Albertalli's alley. Now I will say I haven't read anything by Adam Silvera before, so I don't really know how this plays into his writing style, but within pages you can tell who wrote Ben and who wrote Arthur. Like right away I could tell who wrote who. But I did really, really enjoy this. It's very cute. The next book is the only graphic novel that I read in these 2 months, and that is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. Now, this follows a prince who likes to moonlight as a very fashionista, fashion-forward girl, and likes to wear dresses. It was super cute. The art was amazing. I think I gave this one, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I loved it a lot, but what got me was the end wrapped up so quickly, and to me in a very unrealistic way. Because it was for younger audiences, I totally understand why it did like the things that it did, but to me, like, a king wouldn't have done what the king did at the end. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, so I couldn't really wrap my brain around why the end happened. I will say what I was confused about was I definitely thought that this was going to be about a transgender prince, and it wasn't. It was just about a dude who likes to dress up in dresses. And there's nothing wrong with that, but like that was my own fault for going in with those expectations, and that like wasn't what it was about at all. But with that being said, I did really enjoy it. Like I said, the art was amazing. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I loved it. The next book that I read in January is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I know, gasp, I gave a Jane Austen novel not 5 stars. I still really, really enjoyed this book. I will say it is definitely not my favorite book I will say my favorites are probably Pride and Prejudice and Persuasions. Those are pretty tied for top. But this is definitely a really, really good one. It's definitely shows more of her, I guess, witty writing style. At least it did to me, especially in the beginning. It was super funny, and it just shows the ridiculousness of the way Jane Austen found some people in society, and that way she wrote them into those characters, which I think is amazing. So I definitely loved this. One thing that I will say that annoys the crap out of me about Jane Austen, and I don't think she does this in all of her novels, but she definitely does it in this one. Okay, so like when the couple gets together in the end, it's not like you see it, it's more of like, and this is what they talked about, and now they are together. You don't like see the dialogue in the moment, and that's just her writing style, that's just what she does. But for me, I love reading like the moment when people get together, and I don't have that in this book, and I was really upset about it. But that's just like a really small like personal thing that drove me crazy. So yeah, I did really enjoy this book. 4 out of 5 stars. Not my favorite Jane Austen, but it's Jane Austen, and I do really like the story of these two sisters and how different they are. The next one is Stephen Colbert's Midnight Confessions. Now I listened to this on audiobook, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, but I was pretty disappointed with this only because when I listened to it on audiobook, I thought it was going to be, I don't know, I thought it was going to be better than it was. It was just clips from the shows that he had said these jokes in, which is fine, but I think reading it is a lot funnier than listening to it, especially when you're just hearing it and you're not like watching him do it. But I did give this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's still really, really funny. I do enjoy a lot of the things, but I was a little let down because I was hoping it was going to be a lot better, because the audiobook was like an hour, like it wasn't long at all. A little bit disappointed, but still really funny. I still really liked the sayings that were in this. So again, I still gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. So the last book that I read in January is Sadie by Courtney Summers, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I did listen to this one on audiobook, and I think that is the best way to listen to it. I agree with every other booktuber who has ever said that. That is the way to listen to it. It is amazing. The way that it was produced made it sound so real, and I had to remind myself that it wasn't real. This was like a fictional story. I will say it did kind of start off slow for me, but once I was like in it, I was like on the edge of my seat. I was listening to it every second that I could. I wanted to know what was happening. I loved it. I loved the audiobook. I don't think I would have loved it as much if I was just reading it. I think it was still a really good story, but physically listening to it, I think made it 10 times better. So yes, 4 out of 5 stars. I adored that book. It was so good. Alright, now on to the books that I read in February, and the first book that I read is Mun Mun by Jessie Andrews. Now this book is gorgeous, and like I didn't know when I like got it how pretty this book was, but I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars because of the world. This is set in a world where depending on how much money you have depends on how large of a person you are. So if you're like crazy rich, you're bigger than houses. But if you're like super, super poor, or what they call little poor, you're like the size of a rat. And they do have a chapter in here where they kind of explain it, and it goes really mathy, but it's very, very interesting, and I loved this world. I thought it was so creative. The story, I could have cared less about. Like, our main character, I had like no strong feelings about him. So this one got 3.5 stars because I thought the world was so creative and I loved the idea behind it. But the physical like story part was okay. I did enjoy learning about this world. I just didn't really care strongly about any of the people in it. I am glad that I read this, but it was alright. The next book that I read in February is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This one obviously gets 5 out of 5 stars. I loved this. I forgot how funny her writing was in this book. I haven't read this one in a few years, and it was just really interesting to go back and read it, because I remember the first time I read this, I like didn't have strong feelings, and I didn't really know what was going on until about halfway through when Darcy proposes to Elizabeth for the first time, and then I was like, what is happening? Like, I remember sitting on my bed going, wait, no, but she hates him, and what is happening? But like, I just loved going back into this world with these people. It was so great. And the very last book that I read in the month of February was 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Yes, I have officially started the duology. Finally. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It took me a little while to get into it, not too long, but I know nothing about the Grishaverse, so I didn't know if I not reading anything about it would mess me up, but I think I followed it pretty well. I love the characters. And one thing about this book that totally surprises me is that I'm a plot-driven person. I don't love character development. I love plots. And this had a lot of both. It had a lot of character development, but it's also a heist story, so you're kind of on the edge of your seat the entire time. But you also get these great backstories to all of these characters and why they do the things that they do. And then also Kaz like switches up what you think is going to happen because he's a genius. Also, the fact that he's 17, like, I can't do that. Like, in my head, he's still 30. No matter how many times I read that he is 17, I keep picturing a 30-year-old man. Like, I can't see him as a youngin'. Like, I know that defeats the purpose of his character because he's so young, but, like, I can't envision him as a baby. Like, I can't do it. It was just, I loved being part of it, and I cannot wait to get to Crooked Kingdom because I know that Crooked Kingdom is better. Everyone says that they enjoy the second one more than the first one, and I'm just really excited. Alright, that is it. I read those 9 books in the first couple months of the year, and I'm ready to get into some more. I'm really excited because I believe 3 of those are on the list of 12 books that I want to read by the end of the year. So that makes me really happy that I'm already like knocking those out, and I'm about it. So I think that is about it. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned today and what your thoughts are on them. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to be part of this awesome growing family we've got going on over here. I will leave all my social media links down below if you would like to follow along on the rest of your days when I'm not uploading, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!